handful of Dornish characters that did make it into Game of Thrones. The changes made to Areo Hotah were maybe the least egregious by the smallest of margins. However, much of his role and function in the story is lost due to the drastic changes made to the Dornish plotline overall. While Areo did make it on screen, many fans felt like the show version of him was very much watered down, and this skilled and fierce warrior was made to look clumsy and frankly bad at his job, made worse by the manner in which he was killed and by whom he was killed. Areo Hotah is the captain of the household guard at Sunspear for Prince Doran Martell, the Prince of Dorne. He is not a native of Dorne, let alone Westeros. He was originally from the free city of Norvos, where he was trained by the Bearded Priests. The Bearded Priests are a sect so secretive that even the name of their god is revealed only to initiates. They wear hair shirts and untanned hides and practice ritual flagellation. Once initiated, they are forbidden to shave or cut their hair. They are the only Norvoshi permitted to have beards. The Bearded Priests regard the Black Goat of Qohor as a demon. Archmaester Prestane considers the importance of the Norvoshi give to the axe as a symbol of power and might is proof that the Andals were first to settle Norvos, and suggests the Bearded Priests took the emblem from the ruins they found as they established the city. Areo is a broad-shouldered man with white hair, born in or around the year 252 AC. He wields a long axe, an uncommon weapon that has a shaft 6 feet long. While in Norvos, Areo wore a heavy horsehair cape and a studded leather tunic and an iron half-helm with a crest of sharpened spikes. When he arrived in Dorne, he quickly realised he had to change his clothing to acclimatise to the Dornish sun. Nowadays he wears a shirt of copper scales with a billowing cloak of dun and yellow sand silk to keep the sun off the copper. He still wears his Norvoshi half-helm, but he wraps it in orange silk to avoid the sun beating down on the metal, which causes him to have headaches. Areo was born in Norvos as the youngest of 6 children. He was sold to the Bearded Priests at a young age, and by the time he was 16 years old, he completed his training. He was wedded to his axe and branded on his chest to signify the event. He became a guardsman to the family of Lady Mellario and was present the day she first met her future husband, Prince Doran Martell. He escorted Mellario when she travelled with Prince Doran to Dorne. At some time prior to this, Areo had learned Westerosi speech. Upon arrival in Dorne, Areo found it a strange place, very different from his native land. The Dornish women were lewd, Dornish wine was sour, and Dornish food was full of queer hot spices he was not used to. He also thought the Dornish sun was hotter than the sun of Norvos. Areo entered the service of House Martell when Mellario married Doran. Areo watched all of Doran and Mellario's children grow up and developed a father-like love for Princess Arianne Martell, whom he referred to as Little Princess. Despite this affection, however, he is utterly loyal to Doran. Areo eventually became the captain of Prince Doran's guard and remained in Dorne to serve the Martells even after Mellario returned to Norvos. Even after all his years in Dorne, Areo still reminds himself of the vow he took when he was 16. Serve, obey, protect. When Doran Martell moved from Sunspear to the Water Garden due to his deteriorating health, Areo accompanied him. On occasion, Areo is sent to Sunspear by Doran, but most of his time is now spent in the Water Garden, guarding his prince. During the events as seen in A Feast for Crows, Areo is one of the new point-of-view characters added to the story. However, thus far, he has only had 2 chapters, but they do give an important insight into the Dornish plotline and help set up Arianne Martell's story. Areo is at the Water Garden with Prince Doran Martell following the death of Prince Oberyn Martell in trial by combat against Sir Gregor again in King's Landing. Areo accompanies Doran when the latter returns to Sunspear. He is ordered by Doran to arrest Oberyn's bastard daughters, the Sand Snakes. Areo is sent by Doran to put an end to Arianne Martell's plot to steal Princess Myrcella Baratheon away with the help of Arys Oakhart, with the intention of crowning her Queen of the Seven Kingdoms in opposition to the newly crowned Tommen Baratheon. As Myrcella is Tommen's elder sister, Arianne is planning on crowning her Queen using Dornish law as a precedent, thus also supporting her own rights as her father, Doran's heir. When Arianne eventually is tracked down by Areo, during his confrontation with her, her friends and the Kingsguard Knight Sir Arys Oakhart Marcella's sworn shield, Areo kills Sir Aris. Aris had charged Areo and his guard, with Areo dealing a mortal blow to Aris with his long axe. After the altercation, he then escorts Arianne back to Sunspear to await an audience with Doran. After she has spent several weeks in confinement, it is Areo who retrieves Arianne and brings her to Doran. During the events as seen in A Dance with Dragons, Areo is present at the feast where Sir Balon Swan of the Kingsguard presents Prince Doran Martell with the skull of Gregor Clegane, as well as inviting Doran to join the small council in King's Landing. Areo notes that Swan looks to be a more formidable warrior than Sir Aris had been, and wonders if it will come to a fight between them as well. Areo is then present when Prince Doran discusses his plans in his private solar with Arianne Martell and Obera, Nymeria, and Tyene Sand, some of the Sand Snakes, the bastard daughters of Oberyn Martell. During the meeting, Doran makes it clear that he knows Cersei Lannister's invitation to join the small council is in fact an ambush. According to a friend at the court of King's Landing, the party would be ambushed by brigands shouting Half-Man in the Kingswood, and Trystane, who would be sent to King's Landing instead of his father, representing his father's interests, would be killed in the attack. Afterwards, Sir Balon Swan would falsely claim that he saw Tyrion Lannister leading the attack. Doran says he had been dubious of the plot himself, until Sir Balon Swan confirmed his suspicions by trying to persuade him to avoid a voyage by ship, which would have disrupted all of Cersei's arrangements. Obara, Nymeria, and Tyene are enraged, but Doran will not allow them to harm Sir Balon or his companions as they are under the protection of guest rights. To stop this scheme from coming to fruition, Doran has Sir Balon Swan brought to Marcella, allowing him to find out about her injuries sustained by Sir Gerald Dane. Marcella lies under Arianne's direction, claiming that Gerald also killed Sir Aris Oakheart and not Areo, begging Sir Balon to bring Dane to justice. Doran has Obara Sand escort Sir Balon to High Hermitage, where he is currently hunting for Darkstar. Doran sends Nymeria Sand to King's Landing to claim the vacant seat on the small council, and Tyene Sand to the Great Sept of Baelor to befriend the new High Septim. And until we see the Winds of Winter, that is all we know of Areo Hotah. While we do get a version of Hotah in the show, he didn't really get much focus or fleshing out as a character, and for all intents and purposes, could be very different from his book counterpart. In the show, Areo is killed off alongside Doran during the Sand Snakes' uprising against Doran. It was very clear after this point, if it was not already, that the Dornish storyline was going to be vastly different in the show, going down a very different path than the book. But the way in which the show did this, especially with Doran and Areo's death, was for me laughably bad. Not just in terms of how it was written, but how it was physically shown and shot. And I counted it as one of the first times I was truly disappointed in a change the show had made from the source material. I think I was more in shock at the implication that Game of Thrones would effectively be abandoning the Dornish plot and scrapping a bulk of the events from A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons.